Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 85 on Monday, the 9th of January, 2017. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. Happy New Year, Alan. Happy New Year to all our lovely listeners.
Yes, you beat me to it. Yes, Happy New Year, everyone. So there we go. That's us been through the pleasantries. Now we can continue as normal now. Yes. This feels all sort of fresh and new because it's the longest gap we've ever taken, isn't it? It's longer than last year.
3 weeks.
3 weeks, I think. Yeah. It's not as if we didn't put out enough stuff, even though we were both doing other stuff and not recording anything new.
3 weeks between recordings.
Yes. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed that and caught up on some of the reviews and special editions and stuff that we put out between Christmas and New Year. If you haven't, then go do it, please. They're actually quite listenable too, really.
Yes, some people have listened and some people have given us compliments and everything.
Yes. They've since been apprehended by the police and returned to the...
Yes, quite.
From which they had escaped.
Well, because of our 3 week gap, we have I think the technical term is ton of follow-up.
Yes.
To get through.
Yes, it is. And we're not even talking...
Crack on.
Yes, and we're not even talking about Detroit this week.
No, we're not going to do that.
Because it's all still happening, because of the time differences and stuff. There's still loads and loads of releases coming out. It's still the press days there. So we shall look at that next week. But in the meantime, as you said, a ton of stuff to talk about and a ton of follow-up. So we'll start off with that, and we'll start off with... Big drum roll, please. Dieselgate.
Yay!
Yay! So, Volkswagen has reached an agreement to fix and buy back the 3-litre diesels in the US. There's lots of stuff that is still not really known.
Well, for starters, it's an agreement in principle.
It is.
And it's only roughly 80,000 of those 3-litre diesels.
Yes. Which still sounds like a lot of cars.
Well, it's going to be a lot of monies.
No, it's 60,000 of the 80,000. So there's still 20,000 cars for which there isn't quite a fixture. But yeah, it's at least there's an agreement in principle.
Plus, they've also agreed with the Justice Department to spend $225 million somehow mitigating the nitrogen oxide emissions, or the excess nitrogen oxide emissions. And then on top of that, VW have also reached an agreement with California's Air Resources Board, which sounds an incredibly long-winded name for air quality. But anyway, another $25 million, plus they have to up their electric vehicle output in the state and agree to offer 3 new electric cars to sell, so they can sell 5,000 of these EVs annually. No pressure.
So not much. Not much there at all. So yes. Yep.
But then, as you say, there is still a load of things we don't know.
Yeah. Timescales, all that kind of thing. So that's pretty... It's a start, anyhow. In Germany, however...
In Germany, there has been a case taken by an owner of a 2010 EOS, not because it's a 2010 EOS, but because of the Dieselgate emissions.
It says a lot about the owner that they bought an EOS in 2010 anyway, but never mind.
They are taking VW to court to get compensation. This compensation they require is the original purchase price, which is roughly €41,000, which in the current market is about £2.6 million as of today. So I joke, not much, but I do.
Yeah.
The problem is that we don't know very much of the details on this, but Germany's legal system is such that they can't have a class action suit like they do in, say, the US. So individuals have to take VW to court, of which 250 cases have roughly been successful out of 1,000. But the problem, well, one of the things also in the German legal system is if you lose in one of these cases, you have to pay all the court fees for both sides, which, if you're a big business, means little people tend not to take you to court.
So this is a weird one, the weird setup. This because this first test case is one of there's a sort of legal company has gathered together a lot of people, and this is the first test case. So it has to be individual, but of course, if the same people, it's going to go through it's basically going to turn into a production line. But this is the very first one to go through. So this backing this group, this law company, in order to make their money, are putting this one forward as the test case. So to find out whether or not they are going to end up having to pay the legal fees for this first one, or not. Because if they win this first one, they'll run all the rest of them through. As I say, a bit like a production line. Biscuits.
Quite. So we'll have to wait and see how that one goes. But it's not the only place in Europe where compensation is being demanded by owners, is it, Alan?
No, I spat my coffee out over breakfast this morning.
Oh dear, is your phone all right?
It's all right. Yes, I managed to miss my iPad. It was slightly off to the side. Because 10,000 UK Volkswagen owners are launching a bid for £3,000 compensation, according to Autocar, Auto Express, many other outlets, as part of a class action lawsuit, and they are demanding about £3,000 each in compensation. The compensation, and I lost the line now, you found it before.
Yep, it's because they have misled.
It is found to have misled consumers about the environmental damage caused by their cars. They are penalised accordingly so as to discourage this sort of behaviour from happening again. Well, they misled me about it too, but I didn't buy a Volkswagen. But I'd quite like the £3,000 if you don't mind, because, I was misled and because I was being misled, I then didn't buy a Volkswagen. So give me the £3,000.
Also, I would say that motoring journalists have been misled, and those that recommended buying a Volkswagen, they've had their professional integrity called into question, because can we ever believe what they're told? Whatever they say again. Oh no, right. And then there's going to be who else can we say is deserving compensation? It just shush. It's environmental damage. If you really cared about environmental damage, you wouldn't have an internal combustion engine vehicle.
And you wouldn't have, quite. So, but I love this. Damon Parker, head of litigation at Harkus Sinclair, told the Daily Mail, drivers felt they had no choice but to take legal action. Well, yes, you do, actually. Stick with your decision. This is just pathetic. I'm sorry, this angers me so much. I know it's normally Andrew who goes on huge long rants on this show, but in me, it's this sort of greed and what can we get culture just really, really maddens me. So quite frankly, I hope it gets thrown out of court just as it should do.
Well, actually, I'm actually glad this has come about.
It's going to quash whether they have or haven't done anything illegal. They obviously can't find anything else other than that spurious key.
We've had over a year of people going, take them to court. Go on, take them to court, sue them. They've been naughty, they've broken laws, sue them. Well, go on then. Just back your argument, take them to court then. If you think they have actually done something that breaks the law or legislation in the EU and Britain, go at it. Because if they have, good luck to you.
Do you know what? I'd even consider supporting this if stuff like if there had been a change in the depreciation and these cars had lost value. Fair enough.
If suddenly you couldn't, no one would touch a Volkswagen with a big pointy stick. If that was the case, you deserve some compensation because you can see there is a direct loss through the actions of the VW management.
Their residual values have stayed the same. If not firmed up slightly, to be perfectly honest. And, it feels like much later on, we'll talk about Volkswagen sales performance over the course of the year. And we'll find out that the difference is a rounding error.
Yeah.
It's down. Sorry, I had said we'll talk about it later on. Then I'm about to tell you that it's down less than 1%, if I'm correct. I think year on year. Yeah. Anyway, so
as we were last year, we are massively poo-pooing such an action in this country. And if anybody wants to point fingers, as we've said time and again, it is at the people who made the legislation in the first place that allowed this massive loophole, and the way that it was focused on CO2 in the emissions test mainly, and allowed that to happen, or allowed emissions to exceed levels because of safety and stuff like that, alleged safety, inverted commas again, for engines and vehicles. That's where the fingers need to be pointed at than anyone, unless it can be shown that Volkswagen has broken these. If they have, then that's fine. They absolutely deserve the book thrown at them. But the fact it's taken this long for anyone to bring any sort of action, and it's so weak that it is the environmental damage, or being misled through the environmental damage, you know, I'm obviously no legal expert, but I'd be gobsmacked if this got anywhere.
Yeah, me too.
And then that puts an end to it.
Yes,
hopefully.
exactly.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Good justification. Yes.
Well, but still Volkswagen.
It's all right. There's only another. Oh, there's this
3.
one, and there's now 1, 2.
There's 3 in total.
2. Yeah, and there's another 2, and then we're finished with Volkswagen, guys. Okay, promise.
On the follow-up.
Come on, quickly.
Right,
through.
It has been reported that the FBI has arrested a Volkswagen executive in connection with the emissions scandal. Oliver Schmidt, who was the former top emissions compliance manager in the United States for Volkswagen, was arrested apparently on Saturday for conspiracy to defraud the United States. This is a big step. There has also been a few other rumours that to do with management and knowledge of this and keeping it quiet, but I haven't had a chance to really look into that, so I don't want to harp on that that's truth yet, but I think there will be more follow-up next week looking at this. Now, my one question that came to me from seeing this, well, there was a couple of things. First of all, not many senior management or managers have travelled to Detroit this week, have they? Or CES?
No, not that I've noticed.
I wonder why that is.
Yes,
and the other one is,
yes.
Does Germany have a similar extradition agreement like Britain does? Because if they do, there is going to be a few planes travelling from Berlin towards the United States soon.
I would be very surprised if they didn't, given that would be set up, in the post-war years.
Because these things are the one for Britain was set up because it was all to do with security and terrorism, and the only people who've ever been extradited are people who like to sit in their room and play on computers, or businessmen.
Yes, quite.
So we need to see. There will probably be more follow-up on this next week because we'll have more details. But it's the first. It's the second Volkswagen employee to be charged, isn't it? Because there's the engineer that is. I think the phrase is singing like a canary.
Yes. Well,
which I don't blame him.
Not quite the first. Not quite the first, because in South Korea, a Volkswagen executive has been sentenced to 18 months in jail, but that's for fudging the type approval of Volkswagen vehicles.
Yes. Fudging.
Well,
that's a nice way of putting it, isn't it?
According to this Forbes article by Bertel Schmidt, anyway.
Yes.
So Mr. Yoon was arrested in Seoul in July last year. The Environment Ministry has also filed a criminal suit against the managing director of Audi Volkswagen Korea, who is called Johannes Tama. But that suit still seems to be pending. Meanwhile, there are a number of models that the Volkswagen aren't allowed to sell in Korea anymore. I've just lost that now.
But it's just been announced as well on the back of that. There are now some Nissan, BMW and Porsche vehicles that are now banned from sale in South Korea through fabrication of certification documents.
Yes, but whether that's the importers or those particular companies themselves, I'm sure remains to be seen.
Well, South Korean units of Nissan Motor Company Limited and BMW AG acknowledged the findings, saying they would try to achieve certification for those affected models again. Porsche AG couldn't be reached at the time that this article, which will be in the show notes, was put together.
Well, BMW and Daimler were the largest importers to South Korea between January and November last year.
Right, so
yep.
I think is that. Oh no, it's not all. It's not all to do with VW and courts, is it? Last one.
I've got my head in my hands here.
There is a US hedge fund. We did mention this a while ago. There was a civil court case where 19 hedge funds were taking Porsche to court for market manipulation, following the failed attempt to completely take over the VW group in 2008.
I was going to say that's the one where people were questioning whether or not Porsche was a car manufacturer or essentially a finance corporation, wasn't it? Because of the amount of shares that they were buying and selling in Volkswagen.
Yeah.
That was where all the profits came from.
Yeah, but this is 1.2 billion euros, so 70 million pounds. Worth of compensation that's been, or damages that's been chucked out. There's still pending claims of 5.5 billion euros, but they're yet to be heard, which will start in July this year. They've got 22
days of hearings.
Oh dear, you don't want to be on the jury for that, do you really?
No, I don't think that it's not going to be a jury thing, is it? You need proper experts.
No, it's civil, so I don't think it is it?
Yeah.
Again, showing our wonderful knowledge of the German legal system.
Yes, but we are. I tell you, I know more about the German legal system now than I did 14 months ago, anyway.
But that's it. That's enough of VW, but we still have one last bit of follow-up, don't we, Alan?
One last piece of follow-up, and that is Uber, according to... I've got the Recode article in front of me, from December the 21st, which was announcing that Uber had stopped its self-driving pilot in San Francisco that we talked about previously. Uber, if you remember, had refused to obtain a $150 permit to drive for autonomous vehicles in California because the Californian law says that it's for vehicles that have the capability of driving without the active physical control or monitoring of a person. And Uber was pointing out that actually its Volvos had someone monitoring and actively able to take over physical control of a vehicle at any moment, and therefore it felt that the $150 was not something they were going to pay. And I seem to remember lauding them over their essentially poking of the Californian bear at that point to just test out some of these new laws and test where the boundaries of the definitions actually are. Anyway, Californian DMV, in a move so quick In fact, quicker, I believe, than you can actually get a vehicle registered in California, from people I've spoken to in the past. Revoked the registration on all 16 of the vehicles owned by Uber, so they weren't allowed on the roads, let alone to drive by themselves. The Recode article that will have a linky in a link in the show notes has copies of the DMV's letter to Uber and exactly what it says in there, and links and all sorts of fun stuff like that. So if you'd like to know more about this story, then go have a look at that, click through some of the links and read Johanna. Oh, gee, why do I always choose to read out people's names when they're impossible? Johanna Buyen's story on Recode, because it's really pretty good. And that, thankfully,
not quite. No, because after they got their license revoked, Uber loaded their Volvos on the back of Otto lorries and drove them off to Arizona, who said, California doesn't want you, but we'll happily have your self-driving cars. Please come here. So they are now doing this in Arizona.
Crazy. Which
isn't quite how it happened, because as the Californian road people said, there's no problem. You just have to fill out this form and pay us the fee.
Yeah.
Totally. And this was all, as you said, it was just a battle over semantics.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that is it now. This is definitely it of the follow-up.
Cool.
Now is the new news. New month.
I promise, by the way, that I will make sure we go light on the Volkswagen next week.
There's so much happened for January in 3 weeks.
I know. And we thought, nothing. It'll be nice and quiet. It'll be nothing. Well, yeah. Tough. The world will have to wait. Yes. Anyway, December and annual registration figures from the SMMT. So everybody get ready to queue up. Your copy of the sign of the swinging symbol will be running through the top 10s in a little while. But before then, 2016 saw the highest ever number of new cars demanded, which I think is an interesting piece of wording by the SMMT there. The highest ever number of new cars demanded by UK customers, with 2,692,786 registered in 2016, and that is a rise of 2.3% on 2015.
Now, is that above your rounding error or below? What is it, 2 or 2.5?
That's above 2%. I always say the rounding error.
Okay.
So it's a smidgen.
So it's gone up. But December wasn't as positive.
December in itself did see a dip, but a 1.1% dip to 178,022 units. Overall in December...
Well, private took a bit of a dive.
Private took a bit of a dive, down 5.5% for private, down 0.8% for fleet, and business was up 50.9%.
Which equates to
companies under 12 vehicles.
Well, 2,800 roughly.
Yeah, roughly, something like that. Just around about that, even. So, alternative fuel vehicles, 8% more sold in December 2016 than 2015. Petrol was up 4.3% year on year, and diesel was down 6.8% between the 2 years. Between the 2 Decembers, even. Overall for the year... Well, year on year for the Decembers. For the whole year to date, overall it was that 2.3% rise. Diesel was up 0.6%, petrol was up 2.7%, alternative fuel vehicles up 22.2% with a market share of 3.3%. Makes my 10% look a little bit hopeful, really, doesn't it? Private was down. Private was down by a whisker. 0.2%. Fleet was up 4.8% year on year, and business was down 1.2%. So, yeah, lots and lots of fleet registrations going on. What else would we like to know? Shall I hit the bestsellers and then we'll do the manufacturers?
Yep, I think so.
Yeah, cool. So best sales, December 2016, starting with number 10, 3,063 sales. It was the Mercedes-Benz C-Class. 3,202 for the Nissan Qashqai. A little more for the Duke at 3,368. A Volkswagen Polo was 7th. Vauxhall Corsa was 6th, which is quite far down for the Corsa, though.
It was the month before as well, wasn't it?
I think it was, yeah. Mini was the Mini comes in at number 5 with 4,637. Fourth was a Ford Focus, 4,991. Third was the Volkswagen Golf, 5,355. Second was the Vauxhall Astra, 800 ahead with 6,134. And the reason I'm reading out all the numbers is because number 1, of course, was the Ford Fiesta, 8,198. That's 2,064 sales more. So it's like almost over a quarter. Yeah, over a quarter. Over 25% ahead of the Vauxhall Astra. Just amazing. For the full year, of course, the listing went Ford Fiesta, Vauxhall Corsa, Ford Focus, Volkswagen Golf, Nissan Qashqai, Vauxhall Astra, Volkswagen Polo, Mini, Mercedes-Benz C-Class, and Audi A3. Ford Fiesta, 120,525 registrations. The Vauxhall Corsa, 77,110 at number 2 there.
But it's interesting to see that at the bottom end there's 2 premium, and you may argue the Mini's premium.
I would say the Mini is probably premium. Yeah.
So, there's...
It's the Golf premium.
No.
Isn't it?
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
Is it more premium than a Toyota would be?
No. It's more premium than the Vauxhall, but it's not more premium than a Toyota. It's not. You don't say Mercedes, BMW, Audi, Volkswagen.
No.
It's just below that. It's just the rung below that.
Yeah. There's a whole debate to be had about where the line of premium is. I think there's probably quite an interesting grading. Sometime I'm really bored and have nothing better to do, I will take the list of marks and put them into a premiumness level, which I think would be quite interesting, but also hugely subjective. And
yes,
and everybody would
disagree with me. Never ever be allowed to speak to some manufacturers again.
No, that's not true. That's wrong, actually, because I think that people like SsangYong are completely happy with the fact that they are totally unpremium.
Yes, but I'm thinking about the ones who possibly think of themselves as premium.
Yeah, maybe.
No, but if you're doing it in a grading, yes, that's different.
It would be a graded gradient, which of course would have lots of fuzzy bits in it.
Should we talk about the marks and how they did in December and then go on to year to date?
Should we do it very quickly? There's an awful lot of stuff coloured in.
Yes.
We're not going to talk about every single coloured in thing, are we? Can I mention?
Well, the stuff on the right is year to date, and the stuff on the left is December.
Yeah.
So you pick out 3 highlights and 3 lowlights from December, then.
Okay. So 3 highlights. Seat up 60.58% year on year.
I think we can officially call that the Ateca effect.
I think so. Yes. Yes.
Well done, Seat.
Sadly, they're still slightly. If I may switch across to the other side. Sadly, they are still down just under 0.5% year on year because the performance wasn't so great earlier in the year.
But what a comeback that is, though!
An absolute cracker. Yeah, I agree completely. 3 highlights. Jaguar up 30%. The XE and the XF and the F-Pace even more so made a huge difference there. And let's try and find one that's interesting. Honda up 17.9% as well. I think that's pretty good going.
Okay.
We don't really hear too much about Honda's sales figures, but I guess the new CR-V made a big difference there. And the HR-V, of course.
Yep.
HRV, yeah. It's a sudden moment. And the downers, Citroen. Right, I know these numbers, the Citroen and the DS numbers, because of the thing in May when that was the year. So they don't completely accurately reflect yet. But
even if you stick them together.
it's not good, is it?
No.
DS is down 57% and Citroen is down 44%.
This is for December.
So sorry. This is for December. That's pretty worrying. I mean, Citroen have new models coming through.
Well, they've got the C3 that's
new C3s
that's
and
now
stuff
on sale, so that will hopefully start to kick in for them.
I would imagine there's been a supply gap actually there between the old C3 and the new C3.
Yeah.
The new C3, I saw a bunch of them in France, by the way, over the holidays.
Are they as good in the metal?
Yes. Yes.
Good.
Yes, they are.
Good.
Yes.
Good. But DS needs something, though.
DS do need something. I'm sure there's new stuff coming through. I really hope so. Yeah. Poor Mitsubishi down 29% as well. There we go. Which is a shame. I think that they've been caught up with and they now need to take a step ahead. But there's the new ASX, isn't it? That's been kind of shown around the place. So hopefully that'll come on stream again with a new generation of partially hybrid vehicles.
Yes, they need to be sped up.
Yes. So do you want to do year-to-date then?
Okay, winners. Again, I'll just pick 3 that are particularly large. And again, this will be a combination of percentage and actual figures. Right, let me just check for one here. Well, one that is good to see. It's not a massive number in overall, but is Infinity.
Yeah.
Percentage-wise, it's very impressive. It's 142%. But what it means is from 1,195 models last year, 2015, to 2,891, which is a big step up considering they've got 5 or 6 showrooms across the country.
No, there's more than that. I think it's 12, isn't it?
Is there more now? Right, okay. My bad, as the kids say.
Keep going.
One I am actually quite surprised at is Mercedes being 17% rise, which equates to having 169,828 vehicles registered in 2016.
It's a lot of cars, isn't it?
Yes.
Lots of C-classes seem to have appeared on the roads, and lots of new models. There's been the new E.
Well, they seem to have gone for breadth of models niches, haven't they?
Yeah, there's those new ugly things, four-wheel drive coupe things.
Don't talk about those.
I don't know. They've changed all the model numbering as well.
GLCs, I think they are.
Really?
I think they're just
London
awful.
Council.
They're just hideously awful. But Jaguar, I think Jaguar stroke Jaguar Land Rover. Very impressive. But Jaguar is up from 23,954 to 34,822. So impressed with that. On the downers, you already mentioned Citroen. For me, though, Mitsubishi wasn't a good year. Vauxhall was not a good year. Nearly 7% down, which doesn't sound massive in percentage figures, but it nearly equates to 20,000 vehicles.
It's quite a lot.
Yeah. And Volkswagen, down 7.5%.
Yes, which is a bit of a surprise, actually. But there's...
So that wasn't...
Not so great. Can I give an honourable mention?
Yeah.
In this that I noticed? MG, of all the V-car companies, MG year on year, 4,192 cars as opposed to 3,152. That's a rise of 33%. So their sales were a third higher in 2016 than they were in 2015, which I'm surprised at, given how rarely you see them. I mean, I see Infinity more often than I see MGs, to be honest.
Well, I'm seeing more Sanyong than I am MGs.
Yeah, yes, I'd go with that.
So.
Yes. And given the sales are about the same. Oh, the registrations are about the same. Because that's the next little bit of this story, really, isn't it?
Yes. confusion between what is a new car sale and a new car registration.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of it in mainstream media, particularly when this came out. Loads of people, including the BBC, were on about the rise in new car sales and new car sales this, new car sales that, new car sales the next thing. And it's not. It's very clear. We've tried to be clear right since we started doing this that these are registration numbers and not necessarily sales. So yeah, that would seem to be causing some issue for people.
They are the closest indicator we can go, because these are new car registrations on the back of a request from a dealer.
Yes, that's true.
So that's the closest we can get without actually going through everybody's accounts to see who actually sold a new car rather than just registered it.
Yeah, totally.
But a bit quicker than I was anticipating, actually. An article came out on Autocar discussing... this is the first article that's begun to question...
We muttered about it even at the end of last year.
Yeah.
Didn't we?
We were becoming more and more surprised.
And there were more and more mutterings, but as you say, this was the first article I've seen on it.
Yeah. And it's being mentioned that some retailers are self-registering. And as a consequence, this is skewing the data. And they're getting this through a real estate advisor for the motoring world, or for traders anyway, because more people are requiring larger parking lots and storage facilities.
Well,
so two and two are being put together.
It's funny you should say that, because of course around where I am, with lots of formerly industrial land is now given over to later industry, there are some and given where it is right at the end of a railhead, then there are quite a lot of... There are a good few acres around me which are given over to vehicle storage. Now, part of that is because PSA Group has its... is it PSA Group? Yeah, PSA Group does a lot of kind of registering and prepping for fleets around me. It's GEFCO actually, and so they do a lot of storage. But there are other French vehicle companies that have large storage areas just near me, and they seem to be quite full at the moment.
Yep. So it'd be interesting to see if anybody or someone more from the mainstream, because this, like I say, it was Autocar, so it's from our corner of the internet. But if somebody more mainstream or from a more mainstream publication starts to dig into this, and as we know, when the mainstream get in, they don't always get the nuances right. But it would certainly make a lot of noise. So hopefully this isn't.
Yes.
It isn't a big thing, because that was, I mean, when I mentioned it, it wasn't a happy. It's not a positive story that we want shouted about, but clarity and transparency is a good thing, and something the motor industry has to really, really work at making sure it continues to do.
Yeah, Mike Hawes, Chief Executive of the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, says believes that the allegations are unfair according to this Autocar article, and he says no one has the figures. It's a matter for the dealers and their choice what they choose to do to manage their stocks. ... We are confident it's a very, very small part of the market and long has been. I do not believe pre-registration is a significant part of the market, and I don't think it unduly distorts the market. So there we go.
Hope he's right.
Yes.
Okay, this isn't follow-up, but it was a bit of a theme for us last year. Mentioning FCA.
Oh, gee.
And investigations.
Yes, it did become a bit of a thing. And then we had to... There was a quiet bit towards the end.
Yes. Yes, there was.
Let's be honest.
Thankfully.
Yes.
But once again, we return to Fiat Chrysler and shifter problems. This time it's to do with rotary dials. And this covers about 1 million vehicles. If there is a recall, they are being investigated for the 2013 to 2016 Ram 1500 and the 2014 to 2016 Dodge Durango.
Numbers of which must be in maximum double figures here in the UK, so it's not really a big deal here.
No, but why it did sort of pop out for me, though, is because Jaguar XF and the Land Rover Evoque are also being investigated.
It's to do with the rotary shifters,
yes.
For automatic transmissions, so rotating them from park, reverse, neutral drive type thing, and just making sure that some are accused to have rolled away essentially when they've been supposedly in park.
Yeah, this worries me because this sounds like it could be again having to deal with the lowest common denominator, where somebody doesn't take responsibility to check they've put it in park.
Well, yes. The NHTSA does point out that in every incident the parking brake was not engaged.
Yeah, well...
Even in an auto, guys, come on. Come on, use the parking brake or the handbrake.
Use the grey matter between the two ears.
Please. That's what it's there for. It's not fooled. Parking in automatic transmissions has never been completely foolproof.
No. So we'll see what happens with that one.
Yeah. In more hilarious things, hilarious issues for large motor companies around the world, China, he says, trying not to sound like Alec Baldwin making fun of Donald Trump, are going to be fining General Motors for price fixing. It is the single biggest market in the world for cars, and however, the Chinese government is cracking down on some of the pricing policies that may or may not be being used in China.
I don't get this actually, because they're saying it's for setting minimum pricing. But if you have to make a minimum amount, otherwise it will no longer be at a profit.
Yeah. Is
that not just business?
I don't know. This motor authority article isn't really long enough to go into nearly enough.
Yeah, there may be a local Chinese specific about how you can and cannot do that, which I'm presuming it must be, because it can't be as obvious as, well, they have to have a figure, otherwise how do you know it's a profit? But
yeah, so I mean, there's this actually isn't just General Motors. It is the joint venture, because of course to sell any cars in China you have to be as part of a local joint venture. General Motors and its joint venture with China's biggest automaker, which is SAIC, and it's being accused basically of behaving like a monopoly, because it does have so much clout in the market. I mean, this is not specific to that. Not specific to General Motors. I mean, Audi, Chrysler, Mercedes-Benz, Toyota, and even a Nissan joint venture have all been fined by Chinese regulators in the recent past for exactly the same kind of thing. So it's not really, So it's not really a huge surprise that was going to happen.
No. But moving on. Let's move on to the soon-to-be benevolent, happy and level-headed ruler of the free world. Mr. Trump tweeted about how if Ford moved a plant or opened a new plant down in Mexico, any cars built there brought back into the US would face a big tax, border tax as he put it. And then a few days later, Ford announced that they were cancelling the $1.6 billion Mexico plant and going to invest more money on one of their existing plants, for which Mr. Trump took credit for completely fixing that situation and making sure that there were more US jobs for US people by US people in the US. There's been some actual thought gone behind the reasons why Ford did actually ditch opening the factory in Mexico, and they're expanding them at one of the Michigan plants.
Can I quote this one?
Mm-hmm.
So this was Mark Fields, Ford chief executive, who pointed out that despite what had gone on Twitter and other places, and this is from the Washington Post article that there'll be a link to, which is Fields, that's Mark Fields, was blunt about why Ford changed its mind, cancelling a $1.6 billion factory slated for San Luis Potosi. The reason that we're not building the new plant, he said, the primary reason is just demand has gone down for small cars. They don't need it.
Yeah.
It's not that actually, they're going to be doing and investing stuff within the 50 states. I'm sure they would have done that anyway, but they just don't need this factory, so they're just not doing it.
No, and they did. This is something we'll come on to in a minute, though. They did talk about they're making some new strides into areas of the sector they haven't really put their weight behind yet. And the people who are the experts in that actually are all in the Michigan area. So you'd have to move vast numbers of people into Mexico to work on these new areas. And all the associated costs of shifting families and all the rest of these things. So it's actually cheaper for them to not do it and to stay where they are. So there's as ever, there's a little bit of nuance and reason behind why things happened. So
who'd have thought it?
Yes, I know. It always seems so obvious and clear on Twitter as well, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. You can always add so much nuance in 140 characters.
Absolutely.
Often fine.
And, it's not... it's virtually impossible to misinterpret what somebody's putting there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, nobody ever does that.
Anyway.
Yes. Now, a quick moment for a word from our sponsors. Okay, so that's the sponsor spoken. But you might have noticed that we've begun putting out the show on YouTube, as well as the usual podcast players and on our website. The YouTube side is a bit of an experiment right now, and we're curious to see what the uptake is going to be. So please, if you could, take a moment or two to visit youtube.com/motoringpodcast. Subscribe to our channel, and yes, many of you have done so. Thank you very much. And like our videos. Doesn't mean, of course, I'm not going to ask you to take a few moments to tell a friend about Motoring Podcast and about Rear View as well, and leave a star rating or a review for us via the podcast playing platform of your choice. The most powerful of all is iTunes. A 5-star rating there would be great. But other podcast apps such as Stitcher, Pocket Casts, Downcast, Overcast, and the like, many of those are available on lots and lots of platforms. All let you like, favourite, star, whatever else, different podcasts. So if you could do that, if you use any of those, that would be fantastic. Ratings do mean a lot. They get fed back into algorithms which show what gets presented to new people searching, and so they do actually make a lot of difference. So thank you very, very much. I notice some of you are moving to some of these other podcast apps and platforms because there are apps in your car. So thank you very much for letting us know. And if you do find particularly good podcast players, you have particular favourites, then please don't hesitate to let us know so we can tell everyone else as well. Apple phones do come with podcast apps, but it is a little bit special sometimes. So alternatives are always welcomed. Did I miss anything there, Andrew?
No, I think you covered everything.
Covered lots. Cool. Right.
So we were talking about Ford just before our break from our sponsor.
We were.
And I mentioned that Ford announced that they are moving into areas that they had not really thrown their weight behind up to now. Well, these areas are electrified and autonomous vehicles. Ford have announced they will be bringing out 13 global electrified vehicles in the next 5 years, and they confirmed what 7 of those would be. And I will run through these quickly. This is not list of the week. The first is an autonomous vehicle hybrid, which will be for just North America. Then they'll also be bringing out a fully electric SUV with an estimated range of at least 300 miles for North America, Europe, and Asia. A Mustang
That's
hybrid.
That's a Cougar replacement, isn't it?
Yeah, or what's the Edge thing?
It could be an Edge. It's not that small, but yeah.
No, the one that the EcoBoost or whatever it is.
No, that's too small for the US. Too small for the US. That's why I didn't say EcoBoost.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Anyway.
Mustang hybrid, but that is only slated for North America, so it won't be the one we get. 2 pursuit-rated police hybrid vehicles, again for North America. A plug-in hybrid Transit for Europe, and an F-150 hybrid for North America and the Middle East.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there was lots of noise, predictably, about a hybrid Mustang. People going, blah, 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 it won't be like a proper Mustang, blah, 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 blah. Oh, booty hooty hoo. Depends on how they deploy the hybridness. Is it going to be hybrid, as in it gives it a hell of a boost while you're waiting for turbos or whatever to kick in? Or is it that there is a chance you could run electrically for a ridiculously small amount? And this is a conclusion I'm coming to more and more, actually, that the hybrid vehicles of today need to up their game as far as range goes. So it'll be interesting to see what range these Fords come out at, because I don't think 20 to 30 miles is really sufficient anymore.
I think 20 to 30 is all right, actually. I think 5 to 9 is not nearly sufficient. I think that some of that we're finding in some vehicles whose platforms may not have been built for hybrid. I think the 20 to 40 range, the 30 to 40 range is pretty good, actually, if you've got an internal combustion engine. Depends on the flavour of hybrid, really, I suppose. But Ford have always been a bit lame about this stuff. Sorry, Ford, but you have. In that, they've been offering electric Mondeos, Fusions. They've been offering electric Focus and stuff in the US for quite a while, but it's always been a bit of a half-hearted effort, really, and they've not made any sort of effort to bring them outside the US, where maybe those vehicle segments are actually more popular.
Well, actually,
than they are there.
Over Christmas, I saw a tweet of an article where somebody done an investigation into this, and the mainstream manufacturers who are claiming they have these electrical vehicles had done no advertising in America.
That's the problem.
No advertising money had been spent on the Fusion hybrid. No money, I think, had been spent on the Mercedes hybrid over there. We're not talking, they've only chucked out a couple of ads in a very select number of publications. No money, nothing spent. But
that happens here too. Sorry.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Happens here too. I mean, remember we the very first special edition we did with Rich last year, and I discovered by accident from him then that there was a Mondeo hybrid, which I didn't know existed. How many adverts have you ever seen for the Volkswagen E-Up, the e-Golf, the Golf GTE, for example? You just don't see them.
I think that the motor... I mean, this is one point... This is a time where I think I will give the motoring press in this country a big pat on the back. That we do talk about it. Okay, you have to be in this corner of the internet to know about it, but the magazines and the YouTube channels and the podcasts and the blogs, we all do actually know about these vehicles, and we do investigate, and we do ask to be loaned them, to try them out. And I think we need to be, everybody out there needs to be applauded for doing that, because there's, as you said there, plenty of manufacturers who don't make any noise about it, and this information wouldn't get out there otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, considering how limited the uptake is, and I think it is quite limited considering the size of our country and how generally decent our infrastructure is, and the ability to have home charging points and stuff like that. We do have the ability to do this in this country. That our uptake isn't that good, and more needs to be shouted about this stuff. And bad ones need to be pointed out as not being good enough, and the good ones need to be shouted about as being good. But more noise needs to be made. Full stop.
Yeah, agreed.
Sorry, it was just a bit of a. It's the first of the year I had to get on one little hobby.
Particularly, well, I've had my go as well. Particularly if it's in a Mustang, lots more noise in a Mustang like that.
But a plug-in hybrid Transit is interesting because there are electrified vans out there. And I think this is one way. You know what I've always said, and I know you agree with me that I thought the Outlander was clever because it was an SUV 4x4 that was able to run electrically. Was clever because people looking at it wouldn't see that it was a futuristic vehicle, and you can do that in a 4x4. I think doing it in a Transit is of that similar sort of ethos, that it will bring it to such a wide number of people because everybody sees Transits. You mentioned a van these days.
One of our clients used to have one on their site. They used to have there used to be electric Transits that went around, but then that company that was running them went bust. The IT company that had them went bust. So they seem to have disappeared. But there are electric Transits out there.
But just to round this out, it's in the next 5 years, and this is similar to Volkswagen. We're going to bring out all these electric cars. Look at us, we're all under wonderfully electrified companies now. They're coming to it late.
Yeah.
They are coming to it late, and they've got some catch-up to do.
Yes, I agree.
They need to execute it well when they come in. They don't have wiggle room to make an average product and then, it's just still a bit development. This is early tech. No, not anymore.
No, especially not if you follow on from Toyota and Mitsubishi as well. They had room in there to have something that was pretty average.
Yeah.
And to then improve and improve.
I mean, there's too many. There's Nissan and Renault and people like that now. They particularly in Europe. I mean, it's a bit different in America, but in Europe, they don't have that wiggle room.
No. Meanwhile, talking about companies which were actually quite near the beginning of the hybrid world, Honda have now made 100 million cars.
Congratulations, Honda. That's pretty amazing.
34 car factories, which is a surprise to me, across 5 continents as well. I'm trying to work out what the highest selling is. I don't know.
Well, we're looking at a Motoring Research article here, and what amazed me was they'd made their 5 millionth in 1978, 10 millionth in 1983. The 50 millionth was in 2003. So just 13 years later, they double that.
That's amazing.
That's phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, that just goes to show how far production and manufacturing has come on from a volume point of view. I mean, we've talked about Tesla and their rapid aims for increasing output that we don't necessarily believe they will be able to achieve in the timescales they've given themselves.
At, I think.
It can be done, but I just don't. I think the timescale is not possible with the way they have gone about things in the past. I mean, they're changing.
Remember that the number of Teslas shipped globally last year was about the same as the number of Vauxhall Corsas sold in the UK last year. Okay, that's the scale that we're looking at just there. I mean, Mercedes sold more cars in the UK than Tesla sold worldwide last year.
Yeah. So, but I mean, this is excellent news.
Fantastic stuff
from Honda, and we give them a golf clap on the back of that, which I know they'll be delighted with. But more good news, Alan.
Or something like that.
More good news. Because over Christmas, our project that we have followed stalked.
It's been a surrogate project, really. Yes, it's almost
I think stalked is probably the correct word here. Is Project Ellie, or Project 2CV. A friend of the show, Ian Seabrook, at Dolly Wobbler, has moved through an intense period of fettling and putting things together and taking things apart to put them back together again.
He's been awfully busy over Christmas.
Yes. It's got an MOT. It's on the road. Hey! No, seriously though, but well done, Ian. That's brilliant news. And I've got an article linked here in the show notes that you can click through and read. But you can just see when you read it, just the enthusiasm is pouring out. So much so that he's perhaps causing some of the niggles that are blighting his enjoyment of Ellie because he's rushing too much. But it's great to see that it's back on the road, and everybody who's supported him and continues to support him, either financially, just moral support, or with parts, or with advice, or with help. Well done, everybody, because you've all helped to make this possible, and it's just awesome seeing something from where it was at the beginning to now that it's on the road and it's usable and it works sometimes. When he's hit it with a hammer or something. This is just great, and I'm genuinely happy about this. That it's put a smile on my face to see that it's on the road. So yes,
yeah, I'm still slightly jealous because mine never got to that stage. So yes, yeah, it's fantastic stuff. Really chuffed for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Right, shall we move on to what happened last week?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a fine old... I mean, we moved from... We're talking about Ian's 2CV, which has... I can't remember, he did say, I think is it 3-4 fuses in the 2CV?
Well, he's done a lot of messing with wiring, that's for sure.
Well, yes, he has. To some of the stuff that was on show at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas from the 5th to the 8th of January, so it is finally finished. As I say, it is the Consumer Electronics Show, so there is not that much talk about the internal combustion engine, and there's far more about the systems that go into and around vehicles. It has, over the last few years, definitely become more vehicle oriented. There was a time when it was just new washing machines and new computer boxes and all sorts of stuff like that that were being shown at CES. And now, well, some of the manufacturers, I feel, haven't really caught up with that and are still showing just these kind of white, bland appliances there, mentioning no names.
Really?
Yeah.
No, we'll get onto that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. But some have been really quite impressive. So I'm going to start off with what was basically the only one of any of these concepts that really caught my eye, and I thought, that's dashed clever. And that is what BMW was showing. It brought its virtual... It's a virtual cockpit and it's virtual touchscreen and it's a sort of holographic technology, I believe it described it as. But it was just kind of really cool. So essentially a wireframe of a vehicle that looks a bit like, if you kind of stand back and squint and imagine what fills in the gaps, then it looks a lot like the Vision 100. But they were trying to show off stuff that basically had a sort of semi-holographic interface that meant that you could just glance and move your hand and it would put the array of buttons that were relevant at the time just in front of your fingers, so you could pseudo tap into the air and it would, you would always have the buttons at your fingers, so none of this reaching down for touch screens and scrabbling around with absolutely no haptic feedback. which seems awfully clever. I did find a sort of demo, a film demo of that on YouTube earlier on, which actually looked really, really good. Made it sound much better than it had been. Again, it could do stupid stuff like Skype calls and things, and then pass your speech and then link it through to Amazon and all sorts of stuff, which I really don't know that I want. For various reasons, as anyone who has, there are certain keywords that I could use right now which may well cause chaos in your household. I know there's one that if I said "hey" and then a particular word, then it would mess up. It would start recording stuff or mess up my watch and my phone and stuff. And I fear that kind of thing might accidentally happen in these situations, as well as being somewhat slightly distracting. But no, I thought that was really clever, and a really clever way of showing what was all about the inside and the electronics, which is what CES should be all about. And I think that some other manufacturers forgot about that kind of thing.
Just before you move on, though, was the bookcase a Mickey take or something?
I think it was a Mickey take.
That was deliberately there to be, this is our funny section.
I believe it was, yes.
Okay. Because otherwise I couldn't grasp why it was there. I presumed it was meant to be
there for
a nod to be funny because, of course, you wouldn't have a real book.
Yeah, I did that, or it's for the passengers. But no, that wasn't the... That was just a bit of a
that was window dressing. I understand it was window dressing.
I think it was window dressing. It was not part of the core stuff that they were actually showing off. They were really talking about electronics and systems and integrating and the interior, which is far better than last year where they just lopped the doors off an i8 and it looked pathetic. The doors and the roof off. But this was a great way of letting people see what's going on inside the vehicle, and I thought that was darn clever.
But it's... as with all these haptic devices, which is where you get some sort, or the feeling of feedback through when hovering over or touching a touchscreen.
Yeah.
As though you are touching a real button or twiddling a real knob or moving a slider or something like that. It's fixing a problem they created in the first place that wasn't broken. Now, look, I want to couch this slightly because I do understand having a touchscreen means that all the controls for the entire vehicle can be in one place, and therefore you do not then need an array of buttons and dials and sliders and knobs and all the rest of it. I do understand that it can make a more minimal type thing, but by...
cheaper.
Yes, okay, cheaper. Until it goes wrong. Which we both know has happened with one or two vehicles from certain manufacturers who we like, where they've had to go back to the dealer to get a hard reset because there is only a touchpad to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
And then, yes, someone can come to me and say, yes, but what happens if your heater controller doesn't work anyway? Then blah, blah, blah.
But, mate, it's the... right, okay. Yes, you're right, but it's the Consumer Electronics Show, not the Consumer...
I understand.
Stone Age,
my point
chisel,
is we are fixing problems that we have created ourselves in getting rid of something that worked.
You can equally argue that against electric vehicles and the internal combustion engine, because the internal combustion engine works.
And so did electric vehicles before them.
Yeah, well, yes.
But I don't want to go too far into semantics and stuff, but it does annoy me sometimes with look how clever we've been, we've fixed this problem, but you created the problem in the first place. Anyway, please move on. Talk through some of the others because
Faraday Future.
Oh god.
God. Okay, Faraday Future unveiled the vehicle that it's been talking about for a long time. Remember last year at CES, they unveiled this clever chassis and we talked about it. It was really good. It was fantastic. They'd hired all these fantastic people. And that doesn't seem to be working out quite the right way. And there's so many conflicting stories that you'll notice we've really not been covering it. And that's been kind of intentional. But they have been showing off their first production model, which is, in the manner of many vehicles that were shown at CES, essentially an autonomous white pustule. And if it wasn't white, it was kind of light grey, because that's the future. In the future, we're not allowed colours. But they showed off the FF91, which it says is going to be its first production model. Higher power output than Tesla, because that was always going to happen. Faster, it goes further.
Allegedly.
In a straight line, allegedly. And it's also got a pop-up LiDAR sensor and stuff. And other than that, it looks a bit like a Peugeot concept car from the mid-90s, I'd say.
It looked massive.
It also looks very, very wide.
It looks long. It looks wide. It looks like it's
not designed
I
for
think
here.
I've come to this conclusion because this is on the back of that Alpha as well, and the Model X. We need to come up with a new niche. They're not SUVs, and they're not saloons. There's something in between, because it's not an SUV, because it's not, it doesn't have any ride height, but it's
like an Austin Princess.
But it's tall, because they've just stretched it up to give this impression of space and whatever inside. But I thought, considering it's an electric vehicle, there seemed to be a lot of wasted space. I mean, I'm no designer, but it just seemed there was a lot of wasted
space. It's a saloon. I don't know. I can't comment. Remember that this has that chassis which is modular. And has all the batteries in it, and I think that's part of the issue that you find, is that there's lots of stuff underneath people.
Then why is there such a big bonnet?
It's probably a frunk or something, I don't know. Unless they need lots of cooling stuff, inverters and stuff. I genuinely don't know.
And we're not going to know until they can bring out a proper model. People can get in and drive, and
anyone can drive. Yeah,
prod and all the rest of it. So. Yeah, I was a little bit underwhelmed, and then it didn't help themselves that they went, do self-parking, and that didn't work.
It didn't test it. The first rule of someone who ends up doing software demos on occasion when nobody else is around. The first rule of demos is you make sure stuff works before you actually start on it. Now, I forget that just about every second time. You can imagine that if you're a regular listener to the podcast. But generally, I can bluff my way out of it because I do know what's going on.
Because you've done it so often.
I've done it so often. So yeah. But if you're doing it, I'm doing it to like 2 or 3 people. It's never a big demo that I'm doing. We've got people who do that kind of thing. If you're doing that and you're unveiling stuff for the first time, you make sure that it's going to work. You go to that car park first, and you go, okay, let's make sure it works. It works, brilliant, and you do everything you can to mitigate the risk. But if these things happen. Anyway, FCA showed off an autonomous minivan, because let's face it, all that Chrysler do these days are minivans in the US, and they called it the Portal, and it looks a lot like...
Will it take me somewhere else?
Was it an Opel Spark? Was it? There was a...
Got a bit of Deo-Matiz about it, that's for sure.
There is a lot of Deo-Matiz. There's a lot of that kind of... It's not really very...
I had to say I was completely underwhelmed.
It's heavily biased towards millennials, supposedly, by being both electric and autonomous, but it's really dull. Sorry, it's dull, it's grey.
I'm getting close to my first prediction being right.
Move on. Ford Fusion Hybrid Autonomous, we've talked about that. I actually quite liked the Honda Neuv, that's Neu, capital V, which seemed to take its side profile from a micro SD card. And now, calm yourself. Count to 10, because I'm about to say that the concept supposedly contained an artificial intelligence emotion engine.
Ding ding.
So yes,
please don't be playing this at home whilst drinking.
Yes, it's paired a cooperative mobility ecosystem. So there's 3 in anywhere. I'd rather be a car. I think it looks really cool. I don't really know too much about what's going on inside it. I think it looks great.
I like the looks. They hammered home. I watched a couple of videos about this. They've hammered home how it's going to allow owners to earn money because they can let other people use this. Not going to happen. It's got a skateboard in the back, an electric longboard for the final mile of your journey, because, quote, many of our designers like skateboarding. But it's okay because that longboard can be used to hold a laptop or baggage, stuff that you're carrying as well. No, it can't actually, because the first time you break, I looked at it. The first time you break, everything goes flying off that. So you've either decapitated people in the front, or you've smashed stuff in the back. And the emotion engine, this is a big problem I have with all.
Right.
You're going to try and stop me now.
You've got.
I'm just going to say it, and I'm going to be done with it because then I've said it.
20 seconds starting now.
All the manufacturers are talking about emotion. They're all talking. Many of them are talking about how they can read your emotions, and the car will become personalised, reacting to your emotions. This has yet to be successfully done by any technology anywhere in the world, and I know this because of a personal business interest in this.
Not bad. Well done. That could have gone on for some time.
I'd love to see this work, but it doesn't, because many times the camera they're using isn't good enough.
Yeah.
Let alone the software on the back of it and things like that, and them understanding what emotions are and how to read them and all those details. But moving on.
It's worth mentioning the keynote speech at CES, certainly from the automotive side, was given by the boss of all the car companies in the world ever.
I was gutted. He didn't come on to the... exactly.
The Imperial
He didn't come on
March
to the
from,
Rebel Alliance theme tune. And the problem is because of you... because of you last year, every time he mentioned Renault-Nissan Alliance, I heard the Rebel Alliance.
My work here is done. Anyway, he spoke lots about mobility and partnerships.
Ding, 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 ding.
All sorts of stuff. And he was planning on a mobility scheme based around the new Micra in Paris, which is a very curious one, given that Paris, to me, is a place where I see car sharing working all the time, with the Autoliv scheme, which is based Italian cars built in Brittany, designed by Pininfarina. Can't remember the name. And I really, really want a shot of at some point. What else? There's some other crazy stuff from Rinspeed and Schaeffler, the Schaeffler Micromobility Biohybrid, which was like people have been smoking too much.
Biohybrid, which means you've got to pedal.
Yeah, you're pedaling, by the way. Yeah.
Toyota's Concept I.
Yeah, 2 more to go. Toyota's Concept I, all about AI-style tech, and connected vehicles. What's interesting...
See my discussion with Honda.
Well, no, they were talking very much more about telematics and connectivity.
They were talking about emotion as well.
Here. Oh, were they?
Yes, because there's going to be... And this is the other buzzword that we have to add to our buzzword bingo, is personalisation. Through understanding you, through AI.
So, it won't just be stickers for the roof of your Mini in the future?
No, it'll change colour internally to help calm or uplift you. This isn't just a Toyota thing, by the way. This is what they're all basically saying.
This is not a dig at Toyota. This is I've heard this against Mini. Yes. The last one is that Volkswagen have been revealing and looking at and showing microbus.
Another one?
Another one in their fine history of bringing these things to production.
Hang on, isn't that one every show almost, because they want something positive to be said, and hopefully people won't mention Dieselgate and will think of them as a lovely huggable company, because everybody then goes, oh, why don't you build this, forgetting that they've mentioned that last time with the last version. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, it'd be great with a 3-litre V6 diesel engine in it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
I have to say I am completely bored and over them doing that. If they bring one out, I'd love for them to bring one out, but I am no longer going to talk about them, because it's just like, you just bring one out, whatever. Whenever you're always bringing something onto your show thing to go, oh look, this is what we could do that harks back to our classic. Yeah, well, do something about it then. If you mean it, do something about it. Otherwise, it looks like it's smoke and mirrors to hide stuff, to draw our attention away. Not that has made me cross at all, by the way.
No,
not in any way.
No. This was always going to happen this week. I think anyone who's been keeping a vague eye on the news and knowing that we had a lot to catch up on knew that this was going to happen this week.
Oh, yeah, I've seen some crackers for Detroit. Right, let's move on, though. Let's move on.
Yes, please.
Sorry. There was one other thing I wanted to mention about CES. There was quite a few interesting-looking autonomous projects, which are more to do with the tech companies and chip companies, which looked interesting, and let's see how they execute those in reality. But some of the demos that I saw, and there'll be many links in the show notes, there'll be various magazines. There's also BBC iPlayer, The Click. Thanks to Dognob1 for this one, actually, because he suggested watching it. About 8 minutes 40 in, there's a specific section on cars and the various technology to do with that. And it was interesting to see that being trialled and demonstrated. Mm-hmm. But now I want to move on away from CES. Friend of the show, at Autobahn, who's been on Rear View, is helping to bring out a new motor show in Manchester, actually, at the end of this month, on the 28th of January 2017, at 6 p.m. at the Stad Technic in Manchester. Boosted Manchester. So if you look for it's from between 6 and 10 p.m. that is. If you look for the hashtag Boosted Manchester and Autobahn, watch out for him on
follow
Twitter.
Ollie, and I'm sure you'll know all about it. Yeah.
Then please come along to that. I'm going to do my very best to get there. But this looks a great thing. It looks like they're trying to do something slightly different that we in the Northwest and the North don't always get to see these sort of higher end cars. So this should be interesting. I hope it does well. Hope the weather's kind, and I hope loads of people.
Just walk through the car park at Old Trafford. Will that not cover most of it for most of you?
But this may be by people who can appreciate their cars.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Good point.
Hoping. So,
yes, that should be interesting.
Yes.
So 28th of the month.
Yes. It's Saturday.
See what the weather's like. Cool. So that brings us on to a list of the week. List of the week this week is from the UK Car of the Year 2017, which was the story on Motoring Research presented on the January the 9th, 2017. So, gosh, there was a lot of time there to decide which one it was. Yes, I imagine that's based on 2016 cars, to be honest. The idea of this is that it is a car award initiative focused on the UK, and it's looking at all the models that have been brought out and actually launched here in the UK over the past 12 months, hence it's 2017, based on the 2016 cars. So there are 12 categories that you can choose from, and I don't believe the overall has been chosen yet.
No, not until February.
Not until February, but it has to follow in pretty hallowed footsteps. It's the BMW i3 in 2014, the i8 in 2015, and the wonderful, amazing Mazda MX-5 in 2016.
And so you broke your promise.
Hey, we've recorded far more than two.
No. There was news shows.
Oh, we have.
No, we've done a pile of special editions.
Oh, never mind. Anyway, it was mentioned for me. It was in here. So anyway, let's get on with the list. So best small hatch, Hyundai Ioniq. Everybody classes the Ioniq as small. I really must see it beside other stuff.
Well, I want to see it beside I was going to say a Prius then. Prius. Next to a Prius, because if it's not the 7-seat Prius, they seem quite similar size, but it could just be a perception of mine.
I would think so, but here it's classed as a family car.
That's not the only award that's happened.
No.
There was one last year that we've talked about.
It's one at the end of the year, yeah. And we went, really? They look about the same size, and said exactly what we've just said there.
Yes.
The Ioniq is just 70 millimetres shorter than the Prius. So best family car, Toyota Prius. Best executive car, the Mercedes-Benz E-Class. The best luxury car is the Rolls-Royce Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
The best estate car is the Volvo V90. Calm yourself. The best MPV is the Renault Scenic and Grand Scenic. Now, I saw one of these sitting in the streets in France over holidays, and it looked awesome. I mean, the wheels looked a complete nightmare to clean, as we mentioned. This has been mentioned before, but it looks really good on those monster wheels. And if you follow us on Instagram, where we're at Motoring Podcast, you'll have seen it there.
But is this not a sector that's almost dead, because the design is to look more like an SUV, isn't it?
Well, that's because it is the best MPV sector.
No, it's to look like an SUV. Sorry.
Oh, a little bit. I don't know. The French seem to still be quick to do it, though.
Okay.
Pass.
Yeah, I don't want to derail anyway. Sorry.
Too late. Best crossover is the Seat Ateca. Best large crossover is the Jaguar F-Pace. The best coupe is the Porsche 718 Cayman. Best cabriolet is the Mercedes... Sorry, say again?
Every time it gets mentioned, I have to say, this is the law, I have to say it's the best looking Porsche in the range.
Yeah, it is the best looking Porsche in the range, yes. Best cabriolet, Mercedes-Benz S-Class cabriolet, funnily enough. Best sports car is the Porsche 718 Boxster. Best performance car is the... I don't know why I have to say the last bit in the 718 in a silly voice every time, it just happens. The best performance car is the Ford Focus RS.
Talking in silly voices.
Yes, quite. So yeah, don't know what the overall one is. We'll find out next year. Next month, and we shall let you know then.
Do you want to make a prediction on that? Just for a bit of fun.
One, two, right. Could be a choice. I reckon it's going to be down to 2.
I do too.
Which one? Okay.
Mm-hmm. I didn't realise it was going to be that hard for you, sorry.
Oh, no, it is hard. It's hard because there's 2, and I can see people getting really excited about either of them. I'm going to say... Jaguar F-Pace.
Okay. I'm going to say the Volvo V90.
Are you? I thought you were going to say the Ford Focus RS.
No. My number two was the F-Pace. And I was thinking the F-Pace because it's the UK Car Awards, and we are quite loyal to our home brands in inverted commas.
Well, we're not French, we're not that bad. But...
No, I mean as in when Cars of the Year are judged, or we're talking about our home brands. We, as a nation, we are very patriotic.
Yeah.
Or patriotic.
But you see, yeah. I think
I would not be surprised if the F-Pace is number 1, but I think the V90's done remarkably well.
But everyone was basically rubbing themselves on the Focus RS. But they might be over that now, you see. Or it depends on the demographic of who chooses. That's the killer.
I mean, because previous ones, what did we have? We had the i3.
So basically,
it's not all about performance, is it?
No, that's why the F-Pace was in there. That's why I chose F-Pace in the end.
Ding! First of the year.
Ooh. Yeah. So I think that those were 3. I would be, if it's not the 3 that we've picked, right? I reckon F-Pace is the winner, and then I reckon that the V90 and the Focus RS will make up the top 3.
I agree that the V90 and F-Pace will be in the top 3. I think the V90 will be first. Wouldn't be surprised if the F-Pace is, and then after that, I think the E-Class. The E-Class.
Okay. Yeah, as I say, that one really is demographic of people choosing.
Yep. But that's not a bad list, actually, I don't think.
No, I think it's a really good list, actually. I don't have an issue with it. Normally you go through these and you think, really?
Yeah.
But no, that one made a lot of sense. And of course, we got that from Motoring Research, by the way. That's where we took that one from, as usual. So, yeah. I say as usual. It's only because none of the rest you put out decent lists. We try loads of other places for lists, and they're always a bit lame.
Oh, so there's another one lined up for next week already. Major Gav is back with a bang.
Oh, good. Oh, okay. Sorry. I was like, oh, where from? And then you said that, so that's fine.
Yeah. We like a Major Gav list.
We do. The trouble is that we've got to try not to cover all the stuff behind it, because we try and make it interesting enough people want to go read the story. So if you want to know more about this and the justification behind it, then go click on the link in the show notes to take you to Motoring Research. Please.
Yes.
Because they're nice people.
Okay, we're now on to the and finally.
This felt like a marathon tonight.
We have gone for a bit. Let's have a look here. Oh, yes, we have gone for quite a while, actually.
This was always
it was going to happen. We had a lot to catch up on. I mean, all that feedback was just ridiculous.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Right. Well, some of you may know him via Twitter as Speed Monkey. He used to write quite a lot on his website. But then has stepped away from the automotive journalism side of things a bit lately. However, he had the idea to not sit and eat and drink for the entire time between Christmas and New Year, which nearly got his passport taken off him because, are you British or what? And he decided he was going to drive in a day from John O'Groats to Land's End. Now, I've got a link to his article in the show notes, and it's a great read. It is. It's
really good.
It does actually, in quite almost intimate detail, explain how hard and easy bits of it were, and how often he needed the toilet. Actually, that's what I've come away with.
It's his age, prostate.
Yeah, his age. He'll be delighted with that. But it is well worth a read. Please do go and have a read of it. It's really interesting, because if you've never done it, and I have never done Land's End, John O'Groats, or the other way round, it helps explain what actually has to go into making that happen. So it's interesting. I really liked it, and I think his new car looks quite nice as well. He's got a BMW 330i M Sport, 2007, and that.
I just love. Yeah, sorry, on you go.
No, go.
Oh, I thought you were done. I was just going to say, Matt. Yes, the A9 with the speed cameras, and. You were saying that it must have been amazing before the speed cameras. Yes, it was. I used to drive it just about every week. It was fantastic. You could really sort of make progress in those days. Unfortunately, it has been completely neutered, as you put it, by the speed cameras. But there we go. We have to let people who, yes, lowest common denominator, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Used to be a fantastic road.
Oh, don't get too sad now, Alan, please. Don't want to end on a downer.
No, not on the downer at all. No, excellent read. Well worth it. I sat and spent much longer reading that than I did some of the other articles that were more complex, and I should have been spending more time on tonight. But
well done, Matt, for doing it.
Cracking stuff. Yeah, well done, Matt, for doing it. Absolutely. There's no... it's quite an achievement. I think I would look at the idea and go, that's far too hard.
Yeah, you'd have to be stupid to do some long-term drive around Britain like that or something.
Yeah, take a complete moron. So yeah, that's so yes, well done, cracking stuff. Yeah, cool. Well, I think that rounds up this week. And the last 3 weeks. Remember, that's not bad for 3 weeks shows turned into one, really, is it?
We've done all right there.
Yeah. So, normal service resumes this week. Generally, with certainly with Motoring Podcast. I forgot to ask you beforehand if Rear View was back on Friday or not.
Yes, it will be.
Yes. Okay. Cool. So yes, normal Normal service resumes for both of our shows this week. So, we will be back again next. But don't forget that between now and then, you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts with the show at Motoring Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, on Facebook, and on the contact page of motoringpodcast.com, which is the hub of all our activities. Please don't forget to leave a review, a rating on iTunes, to like and subscribe on YouTube. It really, really does matter. Andrew, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, the best way would be via Twitter. If you search for @CrackWindscreen, you will find me there, wollarding in my profile pic, so you'll know it's me. And Alan, if people want to get in touch with you personally as opposed to the show, what would be the best way for that?
Twitter again, where I'm at AJP Bradley. As I said, waffled my way a few minutes ago, we'll be back next week. But until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clews.
And safe motoring.